Hey, what's going on everybody? Goon Cartoon here with another Photoshop tutorial for beginners. Today we're going to be coloring this drawing using Photoshop, and we're going to do it using only two tools, the paint bucket and the paintbrush. I'm going to be using a 5-color color palette to color this thing right here. And I'm also going to show you the keyboard shortcuts that I use to access the different tools that we're going to be using and the way I navigate the program of Photoshop as I go through and color this thing. We're going to go through and plug any holes that I may have missed with the black outlines to keep my paint bucket from overflowing into areas that I don't want it to go. So the first thing I want to do is I want to duplicate my layer. I have the original drawing here and I want to make a copy of it. So in order to do that, I can either drag it down here to this plus sign, or I can hit Command or Control J on the keyboard to make a copy. The next thing I want to do is multiply the layer on this copy. And I do that by going up here to this blend mode layer menu where it says normal, hit the drop down and select multiply. Now what we've done is we've multiplied the colors that are on this layer. You may have noticed that the black lines got darker when I selected that. And what that's going to do for us is make it so we can use our brush tool and color on top of these black lines if necessary without covering them with the paint that we're going to be using. So let's get started. Let me go ahead and select I on the keyboard for my eyedropper tool, and I'm going to go over this next tab and grab the color pink. I'm going to press X to toggle between these two colors and select this dark pink. So now I've got two colors selected, and the only one I'm using is the one on top, but if I press X I can switch between those two and color in my drawing with whichever color I want. I'm going to start off with these two pink colors, and then I'll come back with my eyedropper tool and select these other colors as we get going. The next thing I'm going to do is press G, which brings up my paint bucket tool, and now I can start coloring. I'm going to go through the entire drawing with this one color selected and fill in a bunch of areas using this pink color, this dark pink. I'm doing that because I want there to be an even amount of this color throughout the drawing, and I'd want to make sure that I don't put too much of it in one area. But when I go little by little like this, I can make sure it's all spread out evenly. I'm going to go ahead now and press X on the keyboard to select the light pink that I selected earlier, and I'm going to go through the drawing and color in these guys, various people with this color. Okay, so I think I'm good with the color pink on the dark and the lighter shades, and I'm going to go back to this tab, select I for my eyedropper tool, and I'm going to grab this peach color and this light green color. I'm going to press X and select it, and now I've got these two colors selected. I'm going to go back to my drawing and I'm going to use the green next, press G for paint bucket, and start going through my drawing one more time and putting a nice amount of green throughout the drawing. In areas like this, I'll press Z, which will bring up my magnifying glass, and then I click and drag to zoom in, and that way I can fill in this guy's eyebrows. What you definitely don't want to do is accidentally click on a black line with your paint bucket tool. You can't see it right now, but there's actually green underneath this because I clicked on it with my paint bucket. That can cause problems later on. Sometimes if it's a black line like this that touches all the other black lines, you've actually put a giant green outline throughout your entire drawing, and sometimes it doesn't do anything, but other times it makes it so if you if you use your paint bucket on an area, it could fill in other parts of your drawing that you don't want it filled, and because you can't see it, you won't know where the problem started and how to fix it, and you'll have to go all the way back further than you might want to in your drawing to fix it. Of course, you can always undo things, but sometimes it makes such a mess that you have to go back further than you wanted to. So anyways, let's go ahead and keep going, and we'll see how it looks. With a section like this where I filled up his hair and his face, that means I have a hole somewhere in the black outline. I have to go in and find it. So I'm going to go ahead and undo it by hitting Command or Control Z. Press Z for my magnifying glass, and I'm going to zoom in and find out where that hole is, where the paint bucket is leaking through. And I think I found it right here. See how this black line doesn't connect? That's why the paint is, if I fill in here, it gets through and goes into his hair as well. And I don't want to do that. I want there to be two different colors. So I'm going to undo that, grab my paintbrush tool by pressing B, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to press on these little black and white squares. That's going to give me black and white in here. And I'm going to go ahead and fill this in. So I have my brush tool. I'm going to hit my left bracket to make it smaller. And then I'm just going to paint it right there. And it's like I've plugged a hole. Now if I go back to my eyedropper tool, come up here to my palette and select that green color, press X and select that peach color, press X again, so I'm using the green color. Go back to my drawing and press G. Now I should be able to fill in this guy's face or skin with the green and not have it go into his hair. There we go, we solved it. So let's keep going and put some more green in this drawing. So this is a time where using the multiply blend effect is going to come in really handy. As you can see here, I've got a open spot here in his hand where it should be green. I can use my paint bucket, but there's still a little bit of white there. I can grab my brush tool by pressing B, and I can color right over it and even over the black parts and not worry about it covering it up. The same is true for over here and in here and all these little corners where the paint bucket couldn't reach. It makes it so much easier than having to zoom in and trying to fill these little pixels one by one using the brush or the paint bucket. I'm going to hit my eyedropper tool and select this hair color, and I'm going to grab my brush tool and fill in this little section of hair that I missed that I didn't see. Then I'm going to zoom back out. In order to zoom all the way back out, you hit Command or Control 0 on your keyboard and it brings you back here to the start of your drawing. I'm going to go ahead and get my eyedropper tool, select I on the keyboard, grab the green, press G for paint bucket, and keep going some more. Alright, so our drawing is almost done. I've just got a few areas, a couple guys left here to color in. A few eyeballs, some mouths, some eyebrows. So I'm just going to go through with my eyedropper tool, and now I'm going to start picking and choosing various colors from the colors that I already have here. I don't need to go back to this tab anymore because all the colors I'm using have now been used. So I like to use the pink colors for the insides of guys' mouths and their tongues, but depending on what their hair color is and their skin color, I might use it for their eyes as well. Like I said, the whole idea for me is to just try to get an even amount of each color throughout the entire drawing. You've also probably noticed that when I zoom in on certain parts, you can see there's some things that are left uncolored, like these little tiny corner areas. That's one of the last things I do in my process is I go character by character and I grab my eyedropper tool and then I press B for brush and I go back in and I color in all those little spots that are missing color. And when you're zoomed out, you don't see all those little spots, and that's okay. You don't have to do this, especially if you're going to be posting this digitally online or something. You don't have to have a very high resolution, so you can get away with not coloring some of these areas. But if I wanted to make a print of this, like a poster or something larger, or print it as the size that it is, which is 11 inches by 17 inches, you might be able to see some of those little areas, and it would show up as a little crusty spot on your artwork in real life as a print. It doesn't look so good. So I like to go in there and fill those areas in and clean it up as much as possible, especially guys like with this guy's hair. Where these lines are, you can see a lot of the white spaces in there. Those are areas that I like to go in and just color on top of with the brush tool, and that's why the multiply blend mode makes it so much easier. You don't have to go in there and try to get in between each line. You can just color right on top of all of them. So once again, if you guys need a hand with any of the shortcuts that I'm using, I'll put a list of all of them in the description below. One of the best ways to navigate through your drawing, especially when you're zoomed in like this, is this hand tool that I'm using. I'm simply pressing the space bar and I'm holding it down the whole time, and then I click and drag and I can move my artwork wherever I need it to go. And then I can zoom in and out by using command plus or minus. Plus will zoom in, minus will zoom out. And sometimes that's a lot faster than using the magnifying glass tool like this. It depends. It's just a personal preference. I'm used to using the keyboard shortcuts, so that's how I like to do it. So I'm going to go through here and I'm going to grab a few little areas that are left over, like this guy's thumb and him and some other stuff, and then we should be all done. You guys can let me know what you think of this color palette, of this drawing, of these tools and how they work, and if they work well for you, and if you have any other tips or tricks that you like to use when you color your artwork in Photoshop. Okay, I think we're done with all the heavy lifting on this drawing. I think it looks pretty good. I think it's giving me a good even amount in distribution of all the different colors without bunching up one color too much in one area. I've gotten everything filled in that I can tell. I don't think I'm missing anything. The only thing I would have left to do is to zoom in real close and get in all those really tight areas, like these little holes and corners and things. But like I said, I can get away with those for now. You don't even see them when I'm zoomed out, and it's looking pretty good. I hope you guys liked it, and leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.